We're going to bring up our guest for the evening, Patrick Mahomes II. Pat, how's it going?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you doing?
Great,
Paul, what's
Patrick.
good, homie?
Yeah, I didn't go all out like you guys, but had a couple of things I could throw on. I should have got the headband though. That was the only thing.
Oh,
I really needed that, but it's threw it together last minute. It is what it is, and I like that dream, Tom. That was interesting. That was interesting.
And there was a college dance team came down as well and wanted to watch the show. I didn't throw that in there, but
What college?
LIU.
Oh, okay.
It's so specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sacred Heart's dance team is better, but
Yeah, this is
True that.
might be true. They've been D1 much longer, but yeah. Oh gosh.
So specific.
I usually don't remember all of my dreams, but that was
dreams,
something.
Sick dreams are weird. Sick dreams get really weird.
So we're heading into week 8, and the Giants play the Chiefs once every 4 years, right?
Yep.
This season, never did I think that these two teams would be combined for just 5 wins heading into this matchup. The Chiefs are 3-4, and the Giants are 2-5. Kansas City coming off a tough loss to the Titans. Giants coming off a surprising win to the Panthers. Look, the Giants are going up against the AFC champs. Patrick Mahomes will make his first career start against the Giants. The history is on the Giants' side here, 11-3 all time. Giants lead the series, and they won the last meeting. I totally forgot about this game. 2017, the Giants won 12-9 in overtime. Reggie Ragland was the Chiefs' leading tackler that day, and he's now on the Giants. How funny is that?
It's pretty funny, I gotta say. And I remember that was 2017 was a rough year because we played you guys and then we played the Jets, and that was the whole fiasco with Marcus Peters tossing the flag into the stands, and that was the beginning of the end of the Marcus Peters era, and that was a tough year for us for sure. That was Alex Smith's last year. He balled out that entire year, but the rest of the team just had no idea what they were doing.
Paul, I remember distinctly watching both of those games with you that year, actually. That was fun.
We did. We were in college. That was junior year of college.
Yes, sir.
I know. That was rough. We started off 4-0, I believe, that year. And we started blowing games, blew the games to the Giants, blew the game to the Jets, and kind of went downhill. Made the playoffs, but we lost in the first round. So that was tough. And then Mahomes took over the following year, and the rest is history.
Now, Paul, what's your biggest takeaway from the Tennessee game? Obviously, 27-3 loss in Nashville. There's not a lot of positives to come of that, especially with Mahomes suffering the concussion there. But what do you take away from this game for Kansas City, not just heading into this week, but for the rest of the season? Because now they're still towards the bottom with Denver in the AFC South and the AFC West. Oh, boy, I am having horror stories tonight.
Well, I'm not too worried, to be honest with you. I thought the Washington game was a good statement game. I still, when I went on review and preview to talk with Kyle and James a couple weeks ago, we looked at the upcoming games and we looked at Washington and Tennessee and the Giants as the next 3. And I said, they got to take 2 out of 3 of those games. So if we take care of business against you guys on Monday night, I think things will be pretty decent. We got Green Bay, we still have Cincinnati, but we still do have a tough schedule. But I'm just waiting for things to click, and I think Patrick Mahomes said it right, that we've become, over the past 3 years, we've become way too used to the Chiefs just manhandling everybody in the league, like nobody being able to compete with them. And now, some teams are starting to figure it out a little bit. They're struggling a little bit. Their offense isn't as explosive. Mahomes is getting beat up a little bit. They're facing a little adversity, and that's what happens with great teams. You're not going to be, the Chiefs can't be in the Super Bowl every single year. Not that they're not going to be there this year, but can't be in it every single year. And there's a lot of good teams in the AFC. So I think that the the narrative too that they're not going to figure it out this season is definitely not right. I think that they will figure it out. They got to fix their game plan a little bit. Their trade deadline, I think, is going to be huge because they need to fix up their defense big time. I think that's the biggest issue. Their offense is going to figure it out. Their defense is really what worries me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do. Before we dive into these questions, just a couple of transactions here. Obviously, the Chiefs, you mentioned defense. They're ranked 32nd in points allowed and yards allowed. A lot of categories there towards the bottom. The Chiefs, though, they've only played one divisional game so far, which is important, and that was against the Chargers. And the Chiefs are 2-0 against the NFC East. 2 of their 3 wins have come against our own division, Sam and Hank. So that is a little concerning, especially with Pep going on season-ending IR and with the moves the Giants made this week at receiving. They waived David Sills. They re-signed him to the practice squad. It's been a fiasco at receiver for us. And, I wouldn't say I'm concerned, but Paul, what has contributed to Patrick Mahomes' high volume of turnovers? You mentioned, the continuity on the O-line. It hasn't been there with the injuries to Tooney. But what would you say has been like a major factor to that, do you think?
I think it's a mixture of trying to do too much out of nothing and a lot of bad luck too. Because, looking back at a lot of his interceptions, he's thrown 9 picks this year. Watching every game, I think about 4 of them were beautiful passes that went off of wide receivers' hands into the cornerback's hands. So they weren't Mahomes' fault. Other ones, you have like the one in Tennessee where he tried to, jump out of the pocket and throw the ball, even though he had 2 defenders bringing him down. Basically, the ball slipped out of his hand, went in the air. The defensive end came down with it. Like, that's a terrible pick. I think one of the things is he's become so used to being able to make these magnificent plays and, being a play is never over. Something magical is always going to happen. And right now, just things are going downhill for the team, and the offensive line is not as good. He has to escape a lot more pressure than he had to in the past, and a lot of the wide receivers aren't helping him out. They're not getting open. They're not catching the balls and stuff like that. So I think he's got to learn for the first time in his career. He has to learn a little bit on how to game manage in certain situations. That's the big thing, because Mahomes is a stud and Mahomes does Mahomes type things. But the problem is he tries to do Mahomes type things in situations that he needs to just game manage. There's a couple of times we were in Tennessee territory and we just needed points, and he tried to make nothing out of something and ended up getting picked. And instead of coming away with 3 points, we came away with nothing and a turnover. So it's things like that when the offensive line is not holding up for you, when the wide receivers aren't running their routes, when the defense isn't doing anything, just got to game manage and try to work your way to a win.
Yeah, well said. I definitely agree with that. I think this is really the first year that Patrick Mahomes is really dealing with adversity, and this is really the first year, I don't know about you, where I feel like the Chiefs are starting to decline a little bit, because obviously, as great as those teams have been, like, let's face it, the NFL is a salary cap league.
Yep.
Even with a great quarterback like Mahomes, it's really hard to keep together a good team for a long time. I mean, heck, as much as I don't necessarily like them, and Paul, I know you really can't stand, that's what makes the Patriots' run of dominance all that much more impressive.
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. It's definitely a good point. And I think that it's part of our defense that's been hurt. The salary cap issue. We've spent so much money on, keeping our big weapons together and a couple of our big defensive guys too, that, there's not enough money to go around. Just like you were saying, Hank, that's spot on. It comes down to salary cap a lot of the times. That's why a lot of teams are not able to repeat. When you see a quarterback win 2-3 Super Bowls, that's impressive enough. You forget, Brady's 7, but if a quarterback's able to win more than just one, it's impressive enough of how this league is built, let alone, not even winning any. So it's tough. It's tough to keep an entire nucleus together that's dominant.
Want to hear from Dunkin' Donuts now. We talked about Patrick Mahomes, but we have a little more to discuss about him, don't we?
We definitely do. And since it is spooky season, Paul, I have a spooky question to ask you. And that is, well, obviously there have been several things in Patrick Mahomes' career in terms of his injuries. He's had several concussions. He had the turf toe. He had the knee injury. He had a lot of different things happen. Is it a coincidence that he has been on the Madden cover 2 times? And the first time was the knee injury in Denver. The second time, he's now on it again with Tom Brady, who seems to be immune to it. But I am a firm believer in the Madden curse. Now he had that very just horrible concussion and obviously is able to come back. But one, are you concerned about Patrick Mahomes' injuries in the long run of his career? And 2, do you believe in the Madden curse?
Well, as far as the Madden curse, I think it's very funny and coincidental. I mean, it's not really that funny when players get hurt, but I think it's very funny how coincidental this kind of stuff happens. I don't completely believe in it. I think that if it does exist, Peyton Hillis is probably the biggest loser of all time after that one tremendous season. Then he was out of the league. But as far as the Mahomes situation and his injuries, I think I'm not too concerned because he has had a few injury issues. He's a mobile quarterback. He does a little bit of everything, and I will start to get worried if we don't figure out the offensive line, because part of the reason why he got hammered basically last year in the Super Bowl is because we had no offensive line. He got the concussion towards the end of the season when all of our offensive line was hurt. And then we have 2 rookies starting this year, and he almost got a concussion again this week. And that was a nasty fall. If you guys saw that this past week, that I thought it was more than just a concussion when it first happened. He couldn't stand up or anything. And luckily it wasn't even a concussion. He went back into the tent, and he's going to be able to play this week. But I'm going to be worried if they don't figure out the offensive line. We traded for Orlando Brown, and he has not done much so far this season. And we've expected big things out of him. Joe Thuney has been fantastic, but he got hurt, which is a big loss. And we got a bunch of rookies. Creed Humphrey has been great, but he's just a rookie. Trey Smith has a lot of potential, but is a little bit of a raw rookie that I think is going to take like 3-4 years to become a potential star, even though he does have a ton of potential. But that's exactly it.
Thanks a lot for that analysis, Pat. Really appreciate it.
Love it.
James with the comment. Noah says, the Madden curse has tried to get Brady multiple times, not knowing he's secretly an evil robot, and the real Tom Brady has been frozen in a vat of water since 2000. Interesting.
That's correct, Noah. That is factual statement right there.
So
like Austin Powers was for 30 years, interestingly enough.
Also true, but let's get into the X's and O's here. Keys of the game, right? My first key is you got to use a similar formula to what Tampa Bay used in the Super Bowl last year if the Giants have any shot at winning this game, because I have a feeling the Giants should be able to put up points with the Chiefs defense, but I don't know if they're going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes, especially no Blake Martinez, no Jabril Peppers. Those are 2 key cogs, and Aaron Robinson and Ellerson Smith haven't shown any signs that they're going to play this weekend. Our 3rd and 4th round draft picks still haven't played a game yet this season. I think the Chiefs, they have the 6th ranked offense in the NFL, solid interior O-line. Paul, I wish we could have drafted Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, who went in the 6th flipping round.
Yep.
Look, Mahomes, 18 TDs, the 9 picks. I think if there's one weakness in Patrick Mahomes' game, one weakness, I think when he moves his feet inside the pocket is when he gets a little off balance, Paul. I don't know if you've seen that, but one of my coworkers told me that when his footwork inside the pocket can improve a little bit when he's under duress. When there's no pressure there, he's fine. But when he's under duress and he can't get outside the pocket and he can't flush outside, that's when you have the ability to create turnovers against him. So I think implementing that Tampa 2 defense is a way the Giants are going to have to go this week to try to take away Tyreek Hill, and then you'll give up the underneath stuff to Travis Kelce. But I mean, it's better than them having them take the top off our defense. So that's my key: pressuring Patrick Mahomes. Who wants to go next?
I will go next. I would have to say that I know that the Chiefs have been struggling throughout this season quite a bit, but our offensive line on the Giants side is definitely something that we struggle with. So I think one of the keys to our game is going to have to be making sure that we contain the Chiefs defense to make sure that they do not make it to Daniel Jones, because when Daniel Jones has the time and he doesn't feel like he's being pressured, he performs a lot better. And I know that the offensive line has 14 sacks in the last 7 games, which is not ideal. So I would say the key to the game here is to make sure that the Chiefs defense is kept under wraps, that we step up on the O-line and make sure that Daniel Jones does not go down. Therefore, he can keep doing the beautiful things that we have been seeing him do the past few weeks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think another one of the big keys in this game, the battle in the trenches. I mean, look, last week the Giants did well in said battle, but I think this week they're gonna have a bigger test coming up against the Kansas City Chiefs and what they've got. But Tom, I think I'm having a brain fart right now. Paul, sorry, or Pat, my bad.
Pat, yep.
I do want to ask you, are you buying into the Melvin Ingram trade rumors? I know he's been one of the. Did I say Ingram?
No, Melvin Ingram.
Melvin Ingram. Yeah. Sorry. I
right.
know I was thinking of someone else.
It's all right. It's been a long day. Don't worry.
Yeah. Thanks, bro. I know you got my back always.
Of course. Got you. The Melvin Ingram, as far as the Melvin Ingram trade rumors, I don't completely buy into it. I know that the Steelers kind of want to trade him to an NFC team. The Chiefs have inquired about him. I would love him because I thought he was fantastic with the Chargers. I was a little jealous of him. I thought that he was a great player, and the Steelers are borderline tanking this year. So I think it could be that. I think that could be a great pickup. I'm definitely buying into Veach trying to at least inquire about him, but the Steelers actually going through with trading him to an AFC team, I'm not exactly sure, because we don't really see the Steelers kind of like trading guys at the deadline very, very often, or tanking. So this is kind of a new thing for all of us. So it'd be interesting to see how they approach it. But I would love Melvin Ingram, and I definitely think that they should try hard to get him. Don't trade anything too excessive, anything more than like a 3rd or 4th round pick, but I would definitely try and get him.
For sure. And obviously, one of the positives that came out into the year loss against the Titans, Derrick Henry actually didn't have as good of a game.
Yeah.
At least when you really look at him over the course of the season, didn't affect my fantasy team. He still ended up helping me. But in any event, he didn't have one of those big monster games where he rushed for like 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, which he does every game. So there is that. And, I think one thing that's also helped for the Chiefs, they could very well get Joe Thuney back, and which really is going to help you because didn't Mahomes get sacked like 4 times?
Yeah. Mahomes got sacked a ton. And that's a very good point, Hank, because they did stabilize Henry a good amount. Watching that entire game, there was very few positives that came out of the game, but their run defense looked very solid. They were able to. He was not as explosive as he normally is. Now AJ Brown went off. They couldn't stop the pass at all. Ryan Tannehill was like 11 for his first 11 passes. It's their secondary mainly and their linebackers that are blowing it right now. But their front line and their run defense has not been terrible. I think it's mainly their pass defense that they gotta really figure out.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of answered my next question. I mean, I don't think Jaron Reed or Derek Nottie are scaring too many people, but they're filling in the holes, right? They're serviceable players that can account for that absence of Chris Jones, who I know Chris Jones is still going to be an issue in this game, assuming that he does play. I know he probably will, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But you also have Nick Bolton, who's looked pretty good too. Linebacker, 15 tackles last week.
Yep.
My concern's not really on the Chiefs and defensively stopping the run. It's more stopping the pass. My concern for the Chiefs is running the football, because 2 of the last 3 weeks, Mahomes has been the leading rusher for this football team. What do you attribute the struggles in the running game to, Paul?
I think it's partly offensive line and finding holes. We took a couple games ago against Washington, Darrell Williams went off, and I think Darrell Williams is extremely talented. The Tennessee defensive front, though, really was able to stabilize him, and they were not able to get much out of him. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire struggled a bit this year before he went down. We're not going to have him for the next few weeks, but I think Darrell Williams is a good back. And I trust him big time as being our number one running back. And I think that he's going to start having some better games. I think that when the offensive line starts to get more healthy too, that's a big contributor to it, because Clyde was having some big games when Thuney was there. Darrell Williams was coming in on some third down rushes and was playing well. So, their rushing offense has not been great. And Mahomes a lot of the times is the leading rusher, a lot of the times because he'll drop back in the pocket, nobody will be open, and he'll run for 5-6 yards a bunch of times. So he'll end up getting a ton of carries in a game. But I think they'll figure that out too. That's definitely not too much of a worry. And even when the secondaries are kind of mobile, is stabilizing the top receivers and Tyreek and Travis Kelce and everybody, and they have to run the ball. I think they're going to figure it out.
Awesome. Yeah. I think if they're able to run the football, they'll avoid turning the ball over. I mean, they had 3 last week. And Hank, I know there's one more key you have we didn't get to. You bring it up every week. Why don't you get to it again here?
And this is going to be very important because of who we're playing against. Get off the field on third down. If you look at the numbers, the Chiefs convert 57% of their third downs. Now, granted, last week, I'll give the Giants credit. They only gave up a few first downs on third down, which is great. However, we're not facing Sam Darnold and PJ Walker this time. We're facing Patrick Mahomes. And it doesn't matter how good or bad the Chiefs have been early in the season. Patrick Mahomes is still one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league. Got to watch out for him. Got to step on their throat if possible.
Sam, anything you want to add on keys to the man? Poor Spags. I mean, man, I feel bad for that guy. He loves to run that NASCAR formation, but I mean, he doesn't have Strahan, Tuck, and OC type players. I mean, Chris Jones and Frank Clark are good, but man, Sam, anything you want to add on that?
In terms of keys of the game, I think that we kind of hit them all. We kind of ran over everything there. But I think to think of a broader picture here for a second, and to think of, where we end up at the end of the football season. And that's the Super Bowl, which is where the Chiefs have often been seen for many, many years at this point now. So, Paul, do you think that there's a lot of rumors going around? A lot of people are saying Chiefs are not making the Super Bowl this year. Some people have even gone so far to say they won't even make the playoffs, which I don't know how much that is. But are you thinking realistically the Chiefs can't make the Super Bowl again this year, or do you think that there's a chance?
I think there's 100% a chance, and I don't think I saw all the rumors. After the Titans lost, the Chiefs are cooked. I saw all over Twitter, people going crazy about that. But we've seen it over the last several years that all it takes is some momentum, and they can easily get that with the Giants game too. And ever since Andy Reid has taken over, though, too, that's how it's gone. It wasn't too long ago. We started off 1-5, finished 11-5, and made the playoffs. Won 10 straight to end the season. They always can figure out the game plan. there's always I trust Spags, I trust Bieniemy, I trust Andy Reid, I trust Mahomes more than anybody in the league, except for maybe Brady, but I hate Brady, so yeah, I trust Mahomes more. But I think that it's extremely likely, and that they can still make it. It's only week 8. There's so much football to be played. And we also have only played, like you guys said, we only played one divisional game too. We still got 2 games against the Broncos, 2 games against the Raiders, and 1 game against the Chargers left. Those are going to be some big games, and those are going to be some statement games, I think, too. We've played your division a bunch of times so far. We got the Packers the week after, but it's going to start coming down to some divisional games, and if we can beat up on some AFC teams, I have no doubt that there's still a high chance that they can make a deep run. They might not end up with the 1 seed like they did last year, but they're still going to be a threat to make it to the Super Bowl.
Paul, one last thing before we get into our players to watch. What's one thing about the Giants that not scares you, but I guess one strength that the Giants have that you think the Chiefs might struggle with on Monday night that you think the Chiefs need to address in order to win the football game?
I would say if Jones is on and your wide receivers are healthy too, if Shep is back maybe, and if Galladay's playing well, and is Galladay's back, right?
He may or may not play.
He may or may not play. What about Tony?
Same thing, questionable.
Questionable. Yeah. I would say if they have a good portion of them that are healthy, I would worry about the pass because our secondary has not been good. And, you guys have a lot of talent in your receivers, though, too. So I think that would be my biggest worry. I think we would stabilize the run, especially without Saquon. And on offense, I think that Mahomes will be able to figure it out. But if you guys have some healthy wide receivers, that would probably be my biggest worry.
Spoiler alert, we will be in person watching the game Monday night, Paul. So I'm very excited for that. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that later. But Sam, let's get into our players to watch. We'll start with you here. 1 from the Giants and 1 from the Chiefs.
For the Giants, I am going the main person here. I'm going our quarterback, Daniel Jones. Based off of his performance last week, I was very impressed with him. I cannot put him on a higher pedestal. I keep talking about him throughout the entire week. But I definitely think that with the play calling getting changed up a little bit, maybe a little bit more confidence coming off of a win, knowing what he can do with the ball catching, running, and throwing it, I would say that Daniel Jones is definitely someone to look out for, even if there are some receivers not going to be there, but especially if Shep comes back, like that's his boy, like he loves him and he loves to connect with him. So that is definitely going to be something to watch. And on the Chiefs side, I know he is questionable, but Chris Jones, mostly because I know how weak our offensive line is. And like I said, one of the keys to the game is the fact that we need to protect Daniel Jones in order for him to perform well. So I would say Chris Jones is definitely someone to look out for on Kansas City side. He's a strong defensive player. Don't really want to get on the wrong side of him. So he's going to be my Chiefs player to watch.
Jones to Jones.
Jones and Jones, yeah.
Love it.
Like that.
Who wants to go next? All right, Hank, you'll go next.
All right, so for my players to watch, I'm going to start off with the Chiefs this time around. And because the Giants have had a historic problem with tight ends, and because I think this guy has gone under the radar, I think Travis Kelce might very well be at or near the top 5 tight ends in my lifetime that I've ever seen. Quietly, he puts up all these big numbers, and against the Giants, I think he's probably going to have a good game. Last week he had 7 catches for 65 yards. If the Chiefs win this game, which most likely could happen, I think Travis Kelce is going to be a big reason for why, because you know how the Giants are against tight ends. They do not cover them very well. And now for the Giants players to watch, I am going to go with Azeez Ojulari because we look at what he did last week. He led the team. He currently leads the team with 5.5 sacks. 2.5 of them were from last week, and he was pretty much all over the place in a good way. This is one of his best games of the year, and not that he didn't have good games before that. He's a guy that's slowly getting better, and as we alluded to, is somebody who very well could be the team leader for sacks. And it'll be interesting to see, Paul, how your offensive line does in trying to contain him.
Paul, I'll let you go next. One from the Chiefs, one from the Giants.
Hank, I love your take for the Chiefs. I'm going to completely agree with you. I think Travis Kelce's going to go off. I've got a big feeling he's going to have a 9-10 catch game over 100 yards. That was definitely my pick. I think that you guys might cover the wide receivers well, but there's going to be a lot of dump offs to Kelce and a lot of yards after catch. He's going to do some of his magic. I think Kelce is going to put up some big numbers, maybe even get a couple of touchdowns too. And then for the Giants, I'm going to go with Ojulari because I think he's played great. I think he's very talented, great edge rusher, and our offensive line is struggling a little bit, especially on the edges too, stopping with our tackles. So I hope not because, for Mahomes' safety, but I think Ojulari is a player definitely to watch out for the Giants.
Awesome stuff. Well, for me, nobody's mentioned his name yet, but Patrick Mahomes, player to watch for Kansas City. That's the obvious one. Left game due to concussion, has had 13 passes this season dropped by his wide receivers, which is a big stat to keep in mind. Although I think Daniel Jones has had 16 passes dropped by wide receivers as well. So neither quarterback getting a great amount of help from their secondary receivers. Mahomes is going to be probably throwing a lot to Travis Kelce. I mean, we mentioned Tyreek Hill as a threat, 5 TDs on the season. He's a great receiver, but Tennessee limited him last week to under 50 yards receiving. So I think Patrick Mahomes and that Travis Kelce connection is going to be important. And for the Giants, let me go wild card here. I'm going to go Darius Slayton. At this point, Slayton is the best available wide receiver that we know for sure is playing Monday night. And in his first game since week 3 last week, had 5 catches for 63 yards. Slayton and Ingram, they're typically the 4th and 5th options for the Giants behind Galladay, Shepard, and Tony. But you're looking at guys like Slayton. You're looking at guys like Ingram. Everyone's saying, could this be Ingram's last game as a Giant? So, he's going to have more spotlight on him as well. Couple honorable mentions that nobody brought up. A guy that us Giants fans are very familiar with, Mike Remmers, starting at right tackle for the Chiefs. And I love this matchup for Ojulari, Leonard Williams, whoever it is. Mike Remmers should not be starting on an NFL field anymore. All due respect to him.
I can second that.
Gabe complained about him when he was on the Vikings. We complained about him when he was on the Giants. And what are you doing, Paul? The same exact thing.
Yep. I can't stand him. The fact that we re-signed him after that horrible Super Bowl performance was disgusting. That's the worst thing Veach has done since he's taken over as GM. I don't understand that. Like, just go with another veteran minimum offensive lineman than Mike Remmers. He's terrible. They had him play again last week. They just go right around him. Bud Dupree tore him up. Like, he's so bad. I don't understand why he sticks around. I really don't.
It's frustrating. I think the matchup of the game, though, Bradbury against Hill, that's going to be interesting to watch. But one more question for everybody before we make our game picks. And then we'll close out our spooky haunted show and get to some Thursday night football. I'm going to get my candy corn out and get ready. Paul, if there's one player you could steal from our Giants, who would it be and why?
Can it be somebody who's hurt?
Absolutely. It can be anybody.
It would either be Blake Martinez or Saquon Barkley. Because, imagine Saquon with that offense. Oh my God. That'd be ridiculous. But I think I would choose Blake Martinez just because he does literally everything. I love Blake Martinez. He's such a fantastic player. He can cover. He's literally everywhere too. Great run stopper, great pass defender. He's really the kind of linebacker that we need. Can drop back in the secondary, help out in coverage, all that kind of stuff. I I think that he would be huge. That would be a huge addition to our defense. There's a few, because honestly, I would take James Bradbury because he's probably better than any cornerback we have on our team. But if I had to choose one, I'll probably choose Blake Martinez.
Hank, your mom's tuning in.
Hi, Hank's mom.
Hi, Jamie.
Me and Hank's mom DM on Instagram now. So
Awesome.
I love that. That's great.
Thank you very much for that comment, Jamie. Really appreciate you tuning into our show, putting on a nice little spooky haunted Halloween show on with just a few minutes left. Sam and Hank, one player you would steal from the Chiefs, and I hope you don't steal mine.
No. You know what? I'm going to say Travis Kelce, given our own problems at tight end. Looking at you, Evan Ingram. And as I said, everyone talks about how great Gronk was. And Gronk's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against Gronk, but I personally have always liked Kelce, and I've watched him from afar for years. He's a guy that, like I said, he always puts up consistent numbers on a year-to-year basis, and yet I never see him get talked about as the best tight end in the league. I got to go with Kelce.
Sam?
I am going to go with Tyrann Mathieu because I know our secondary is improving and getting better, and I know that Paul just said that he would take Bradbury because of their quarterback situation, but I like Tyrann Mathieu. I've always liked Tyrann Mathieu even when he was on the Cardinals, so I would think that he would be exceptionally well in our defense. I think it would work well. I think our secondary would get stronger with him, so he was my player to steal from Kansas City.
Awesome. Both great picks. And Jamie with another comment.
Oh, love Reese's peanut butter pumpkins.
Those are good.
Love them.
Unfortunately, I cannot have those due to my nut allergy. But
You're allergic to nuts?
I never even knew that.
Yep.
I never knew that. Wait, what kind of nuts?
Almonds, tree nuts, peanuts.
All of them.
Tree nuts aren't as severe, but we avoid the tree nuts, and the almonds are bad. The almonds are a very bad one for me. Yeah. But
I don't think I ever knew that.
yeah,
I
the
didn't know
more
that.
you know. Ooh.
I'm still going to say taste the rainbow.
Spooky
Allergies. Way to go.
Yeah. I usually keep my medical info on the decline, but yeah, you always learn something
Now we know
new.
how to kill you, Tom.
Why, yes. Creed Humphrey for me. Giants lost Nick Gates to the season. Should have never started him at left guard against the Washington team. Creed Humphrey is the third-ranked center on Pro Football Focus. He is the second best run blocking center in the NFL as a rookie. As a rookie, by the way, he's a lefty center, which I love. You don't see many of those. And honorable mention is Trey Smith. I mean, I would take any Chiefs offensive lineman over what the Giants currently have. I mean, we're probably going to throw out. I don't know if Andrew Thomas is going to play, but if Thomas plays, it'll be him. It'll be Matt Skura, Billy Price, Will Hernandez, and then probably Nate Solda.
Half the names you just mentioned are Band-Aids. That's a problem.
Absolutely.
Half the names you mentioned are Band-Aids.
Yeah, I mean, Giants have a lot of injuries. Lorenzo Carter, Nate Ebner. The Chiefs have some as well. Jones and Hitchens did not practice today, I believe. Kalen Saunders as well. Joe Thuney practiced in full, which is great for you, Paul. But without further ado, let's get to our picks, our quick picks, so we can sign off and watch some Thursday night football. Paul, we will start with you.
Should I give a score too?
Yes.
Okay. I got Giants 35-18. No.
Wait, what?
No.
What?
Chiefs 35-18.
I was going to say.
Oh my god! It's been a long day for me though too.
God! I'm glad we made this a Halloween themed show.
I literally scared everybody.
My heart just stopped.
You almost gave me a heart attack there, buddy.
No,
I don't think Paul's picked against the Chiefs once in quick picks this season.
I haven't. I've chose the Chiefs every single week, and I think I'm going to keep doing that. But Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs. 35-18, not the Giants. I'm sorry.
Awesome.
They're going to beat
18.
the Giants.
18. That's an interesting number.
I like that.
Yeah, switch it up a little bit. 18 is an interesting score. Why not?
Yeah. Well, we're an interesting group of people. So
Yeah, it's true.
Sam, you're up next.
While we just came off of that win that was spectacular and the Chiefs have been on a decline, I just don't know if the Giants will be able to put up as many points as they should to win this game. But I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close, and I think that the Chiefs will win, but the final score is going to be 24-20.
Okay. I like that. I would take that personally if I'm a Giants fan.
Honestly, that would be good for Giants fans.
Build some momentum into that Raiders game, which, Paul, you're going to love us next week.
Oh, yeah. If you guys could lose to us and destroy the Raiders next week, that would be fantastic. I would love you guys.
I'll be at the Raiders game next week, so I promise to bring some good voodoo over to MetLife Stadium.
You're going to the game, Hank?
Yep.
Nice.
Next week.
Anyway,
my pick
reference there. Anyway, Hank, go ahead.
So for my pick, I unfortunately also do not have the Giants winning. However, just for the fun of it, you want to hear the score that I'm going to give you? 36-23 Kansas City. And why am I giving that score? Because it would be a scoregami.
Aha.
I love scoregami.
You gotta stop. You gotta stop with that. Oh my god.
Why? The scoregami's fun.
I'm sorry, I had to. I just wanted to give a funny scoregami. I've been waiting all year to do this, man. I had to.
All right. Chiefs 34, Giants 23. I think, as I said, the Giants are going to be able to score some points, but I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs are going to be able to score more. I think playing an Arrowhead is also a big cause for concern. That stadium's going to be rocking. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce's going to be balling. I expect 100 yards and a couple of tutties from him against us. And Reggie Ragland will not be able to contain him or Tay Crowder. I almost said Crawford. I stopped myself. I'm not Dave Gettleman, so you all know. I'm not under this costume. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to start turning things around, Paul. I mean, I don't necessarily know if they're going to win the division, but I think they're at worst going to be a wild card team this season. Yeah. And I still think they have a chance to run the table. So there you go. Chiefs win and get back on track, get back to 500. And clean sweep for Kansas City. Little boring predictions. Nobody picked the Giants, but you got to be a little realistic. You can't you can't just pick your football team for the hell of it. But on that note, Paul, wanted to thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, where can people find the 3&D podcast?
Of course, I want to thank you guys for having me. And the 3&D hosts a weekly NBA and college basketball show here on Review and Preview. It goes every Monday night at 8:30. You can find it on all podcasting, anywhere you find your podcast. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Brand new episodes on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live. It's coming to you every Monday night. We're covering everything across basketball. It's great. We got great guests, and you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss any of the shows on Review and Preview. I'll tell you that. We got some good stuff going.
Yeah, I feel honored to be your first guest of season 2, so really appreciate you joining us. And until then, good luck to Chiefs Kingdom on Monday night, and we appreciate you joining the show. And yeah, best of luck, Paul.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Later. That was Paul Lombardi, or Pat Mahomes II from the 3&D. Sam and Hank, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I'm excited for this game, genuinely. I really think it's going to be good, and I think that it'll be entertaining Monday night, especially listening to Eli Manning talk about his New York Giants. So, yeah, I'm super excited, and hopefully this clean sweep is wrong, because that would be a wild win for us.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is I'm not asking for them to win, although I would love it if they did win. Don't get me wrong. I just want the Giants to show me something that can give me hope for the remainder of the season.
Agreed.
That's it. Nothing too crazy like an upset win, just something good that can make me hopeful. Because if you really look at the Giants, I haven't really been hopeful for this team in a long time. Well, no, that's not entirely true. Maybe last year, but you get the point.
Folks, thank you so much for watching our show tonight. All the comments are very much appreciated. On behalf of Superfan Hanky, Dunkin' Donuts, I'm 90s Kid saying so long, everybody. Enjoy some Thursday night football. You've been watching Big Blue Avenue here on Facebook Live and YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Review and Preview Sports. Have a good night, everybody, and let's go Big Blue.